Good morning, students. So today we are going to start with the fifth lecture of haloalkanes. Today we are going to start with the physical properties of haloalkanes. Physical properties of haloalkanes. Physical properties of haloalkanes. We'll be discussing two physical properties. Number one, we are going to talk about water solubility. The first one we are going to talk about is water solubility. We need to see whether haloalkanes are soluble in water or not. We are going to find out whether haloalkanes are soluble in water or not. Now you will find that alkyl halide basically is a polar molecule because there is a carbon halogen bond. Halogen is more electronegative than carbon, so electrons will go towards the halogen. With the result, there is a small negative charge over here, small positive charge over here. It has a dipole. The molecule is polar. So alkyl halide as such is a polar molecule, but still it has been found, though it is polar, it doesn't dissolve in the polar solvents like water. Alkyl halides are insoluble in water, though they are polar in nature. The reason is very simple. Alkyl halide molecules, they have no affinity with water. They do not form any type of, they don't have any attraction towards water. They do not form hydrogen bonding with water. They do not form any hydrogen bonding with water. So since they do not form any hydrogen bonding with water, they are not attracted towards water. They are immiscible with water. So alkyl halides, though they are polar in nature, but still they are insoluble in water due to the inability to form hydrogen bonding with water. So this was the first property, called as nothing but water solubility. Now let us discuss the second property that we need to discuss, that is the boiling point. All of us know by now that the boiling point of a compound depends on intermolecular force of attraction. If the force of attraction, intermolecular force of attraction is more, the boiling point of the molecule is going to be more. So let's see between the two alkyl halide molecules what type of force of attraction is operating. Like if you remember, in alcohols we have discussed they have strong intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Let us see in the case of haloalkanes. Haloalkanes, between the two haloalkanes, the intermolecular force of attraction this is going to operate is nothing but called the van der Waals force of attraction. Between the two alkyl halide molecules, the force of attraction which is operating is the van der Waals force of attraction, which all of us know depends on the size or the surface area. More the surface area of the molecule, more is the size of the molecule, more will be the intermolecular force of attraction between the alkyl halide molecules, and more will be the boiling point. Let us first of all compare the boiling point of alkyl halide with the corresponding alkene. Let us compare the boiling point of alkyl halide with the corresponding alkene. What does it mean? Suppose we need to find out or compare the boiling point of chloromethane with methane. They both have one carbon atom. So let's see whose boiling point will be more. If you compare the boiling point of alkyl halide and the corresponding alkane, you will find alkyl halide molecules will have more boiling point as compared to alkane. That is the first thing. Alkyl halides have got higher boiling point as compared to the corresponding alkane. Reason being, the molecule of alkyl halides are bigger. They are bigger in size as compared to the corresponding alkane. Why alkyl halides molecules are bigger than the corresponding alkane? Because you can see here replace small hydrogen by a bigger halogen. So with the result, since alkyl halide molecules are going to be bigger, the van der Waals force of attraction between them will be stronger. Whereas corresponding alkanes are smaller, so van der Waals force of attraction between them is going to be smaller. So alkyl halide molecules have got higher boiling point as compared to the corresponding alkanes. Reason being, alkyl halide molecules are bigger, so intermolecular force of attraction is going to be bigger. Whereas corresponding alkanes will be smaller, so intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction will be smaller, and so will be the boiling point. So this is the first thing we have discussed, that alkyl halide boiling point will be higher than the corresponding alkane. Now let us see the second case. Let us say we have got the following alkyl halide molecules and we need to compare the boiling point among them. Suppose we have CH3I, we have CH3Br, all of them have same alkyl group, only we are changing the halogen. So we have got a iodide, we have a bromide, we have a chloride. You will find the boiling point will be in this order. Iodine ones will be having higher boiling point as compared to the bromide as compared to the chloride. The reason is very simple. If you compare their size of the molecule, CH3I will be bigger because of the presence of iodine as compared to CH3Br, which is going to be smaller, and CH3Cl will be smaller in size. So since the size is in this order, so will be the order of intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction. So is the intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction. So iodides have more boiling point than the bromide. Bromide has got more boiling point than the chloride. Reason being, the size of iodide is bigger as compared to bromide as compared to chloride, and so is the intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction. More the intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction, more will be the boiling point. Now let's see the third case. Suppose we need to compare the following compounds. We have got carbon tetrachloride with 4 chlorine, we have got chloroform with 3 chlorine, we have got dichloromethane with 2 chlorine. What you are going to do? You are decreasing the number of halogen atom. Suppose we have CH3Cl, chloromethane with 1 halogen. You will find the boiling point will be in this order. More the number of halogens, more will be the boiling point. Same thing, more number of halogens means bigger size means intermolecular van der Waals force attraction will be bigger. So more the number of halogens, more will be nothing but the boiling point. Now we are going to make the true statement which is valid everywhere. As number of carbon atoms increases, as the number of carbon atoms increases, definitely the size of the molecule is going to become bigger, so more will be the boiling point. The boiling point will also increase, because if the molecules are going to become bigger, the intermolecular van der Waals force attraction is going to increase. For example, we have CH3Cl, we have C2H5Cl, carbon atoms are increasing, so C2H5Cl boiling point will be more than that of CH3Cl. So as the number of carbon atom will increase, boiling point will increase, and we do know with branching the boiling point decreases. More the branching, lesser will be the boiling points. With branching, the boiling point decreases. With branching, the boiling point decreases. For example, if you compare these two compounds, the one with no branching will have higher boiling point as compared to the one which has branching. So with branching, the boiling point decreases. You know the reason? Because with branching, what happens? The molecule becomes spherical. If the molecule becomes spherical, the surface area will decrease. The surface area will decrease. Intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction is going to decrease. So these are the two physical properties of alkyl halides that we have discussed so far. Number one, it was water solubility. Alkyl halides, they do not dissolve in water, though they are polar. Water is also polar, but still they are not soluble in water to the inability to form hydrogen bonding. And alkyl halides, we have compared their boiling point. You've seen the different factors and all that. Between the two alkyl halide molecules, what type of intermolecular force of attraction is there? Intermolecular van der Waals force of attraction, which depends upon the size and the surface area of the molecule. Now we are going to proceed further. We are going to start with the chemical properties of alkyl halides. So let's start with the chemical properties of alkyl halides. Let's start with the chemical properties of alkyl halide. Basically, we have to discuss the three chemical properties of alkyl halide. Today, we will be discussing one of them. So, we will be starting with the chemical properties of alkyl halides. Chemical properties of alkyl halides. Chemical properties of alkyl halide. We will be doing today reaction with metals. I'll be using two metals. I'll be using sodium. I'll be using magnesium. Then tomorrow we are going to discuss a reaction which already we have discussed, dehydrohalogenation. We'll be discussing dehydrohalogenation. Remember, we have done this in 11th class, removal of hydrogen and halogen. And lastly, we'll be discussing the topic called nucleophilic substitution reaction. Alkyl halides do undergo nucleophilic substitution reaction. So we are going to start with the chemical properties of alkyl halide. We'll be discussing three chemical property reaction in metals, in which we are going to take two metals. One is sodium, other one is magnesium. Then we'll discuss dehydrohalogenation, that is removal of hydrogen and halogen. And then we'll be discussing nucleophilic substitution reaction. So in today's class, we are going to talk about reaction with metals, in which we are going to take two metals. Number one, your sodium. Other one we are going to talk about is with magnesium. So we are starting with the first property, that is reaction with metals. Reaction with metals. The first metal we are using is the sodium. With sodium, we are going to do the first reaction, that's called the reaction already you have done in your 11th class, Wurtz reaction, which is used for preparation of alkene. And remember, in Wurtz reaction, the number of carbon atoms becomes double. You start with the compound with one carbon, you're going to get an alkene with 2 carbon. You start with 2 carbon, you're going to get an alkene with 4 carbon, and so on and so forth. So in this, what we do is that we take two alkyl halide molecules, RX, preferably they have to be same. We use 2 moles of sodium. We use dry ether, and you will get the formation of RR. You get alkene with double carbon. The carbon atom gets double. So wherever you have to double the number of carbon atom, think of Wurtz reaction. Instead of writing this reaction like this, and this what is happening actually, this halogen is going away like this, and these two are getting attached. You are getting a formation of a symmetrical alkene. You can also write this reaction like this, 2RX. We are using sodium. The solvent uses dry ether, because if water is present, sodium is going to react explosively with water. So you're going to get the formation of alkane with the formula RR. You will get double the number of carbon atom. Now suppose we do this conversion. Let's convert methane into ethane. Now if you want to convert methane into ethane, you have to double the carbon, 1 into 2. But you can't do directly the Wurtz reaction with methane. It has to be first of all converted into alkyl halide. You know how to convert alkane into alkyl halide? Do its chlorination, substitution reaction. You can have CH3Cl. Then you put sodium, dry ether. What is the R group in this case? CH3. So you will get an alkane of the formula CH3, CH3. You will get the formation of ethene. So in the Wurtz reaction, alkyl halide is converted into alkane with double the number of carbon atom. The carbon atom gets doubled. So wherever you have to double the number of carbon atom, think of nothing but the Wurtz reaction. Let us try 1 or 2 more questions which are given in the NCERT and feel comfortable about the Wurtz reaction. The Wurtz reaction, the carbon atom gets doubled. For example, we have to convert bromobutane into octane, but into oct. Again, the carbon atoms have to be double, 4 into 8. So we take bromobutane, C4, it will be H9Br, condensed formula. Use sodium, dry ether. What is the R group in this case? C4H9. So you will get C4H9, C4H9. That is none other than your octane. This is one of the NCERT question. Another NCERT question, suppose you have to convert 1-chloropropane into hexane. Again, prop into hex, the double number carbon atom. So 1-chloropropane means C3H7Cl. You can condense it. 2 molecules. Sodium diether. What is the R in this case? C3H7. So it will be C3H7, C3H7. That is none other than your hexane. Let us take one more example given in the NCERT in which the people do get confused. They don't come to know that you have to use the Wurtz reaction in that. See this question. Let's say we have to convert 2-chloropropane with a 3 carbon, 2-chloropropane. We need to convert into, let's say, 2,3 dimethyl butane. Now why it doesn't click to them? Because prop means 3 carbon and but means 4 carbon. They don't come to know that we have to use a Wurtz reaction. But if you count the total number of carbon atom, but 4 and dimethyl means 2 carbon, over here total 6. So basically again we are doubling the number of carbon atom. We are getting a branching because we are starting with a branched alkyl halide. So we are getting 2-chloropropane. Obviously you have to use how many molecules? 2 molecules. Use sodium diether. You will get a compound with the double carbon. You will get nothing but 2,3-dimethyl butane. You will get 2,3-dimethyl butane. So whenever you have to double the number of carbon atom, count the total number of carbon atom, think of none other than the reaction called Wurtz reaction. Now there is one more reaction with the sodium that was given by the cousin of Wurtz, just a joke. It was called as nothing but a Fittig reaction. So let us see the Fittig reaction. Let us see the Fittig reaction. In Fittig reaction we use only haloarenes. It's used for aryl halides, haloarenes, the benzene wala, halogen on the benzene ring. Reaction is same. Suppose we take chlorobenzene. We reacted with the sodium metal. Same type of reaction, only thing is that instead of alkyl halide, we are using haloarenes. Another chlorobenzene. Solvent we know, diether. So this will go away. The 2 benzene will join and you will get the formation of a biphenyl or a diphenyl. You will get the formation of the diphenyl. Same type of reaction, only thing is that we are dealing with an aryl halide. Like there is a question in the NCERT. They asked to convert benzene into biphenyl or diphenyl. How to convert benzene into biphenyl? Same thing. You take benzene, do its chlorination, Cl2. For doing chlorination of benzene, you don't need sunlight. You need a Lewis acid FeCl3. Ring substitution will happen. Sunlight not to be used. Sunlight is used for the substitution in normal alkanes. Then you do Fittig reaction, sodium diether. You will get nothing but the formation of the Fittig reaction, so biphenyl. So Fittig reaction is used only for haloarenes or aryl halide. Wurtz reaction was used only for the alkyl halide. Now there is a third reaction which was made by both of them, Wurtz Fittig. It's called Wurtz Fittig reaction. As the name suggests, in this we will be using one alkyl halide and other one will be the aryl halide. So we are going to discuss third reaction in the reaction of metal. It is called Wurtz Fittig reaction. Wurtz Fittig reaction. In this we use one haloarene. Let's say we use chlorobenzene, and one we'll be using is the alkyl halide. So we have sodium, we use another alkyl halide, ClCH3. Then we have diether. This will be removed and they both will join. You will have benzene with CH3, methyl benzene, which you know is commonly called as none other than your toluene. So in the Wurtz-Fittig reaction, we use one haloarine and one will be the alkyl halide. So till now we have discussed three reactions. One was Wurtz reaction, in which use only alkyl halide. We get alkane with double carbon. We use Fittig reaction, which is used only for aryl halide. And we have done a reaction called Wurtz-Fittig reaction, in which we have to have one haloarine and one alkyl halide. The next reaction which we are going to do is the reaction with another metal, that is with magnesium. We are going to do a reaction with another metal. We will be using magnesium. This already we know, we have done in the alcohol chapter. If you take an alkyl halide or aryl halide, not a problem. You put a metal magnesium. We have to use a solvent dry ether. What is going to happen? Magnesium is going to add up over here and you get a very useful compound which is used in alcohols also. This compound is nothing but called as none other than your Grignard reagent, with the general formula Grignard reagent. It is a formula RMG. It stands for alkyl magnesium halide. So Rx, if you put a magnesium, you're going to get RMGX, which is called as nothing but Grignard reagent. Now, if you take a Grignard reagent and react with a compound with acidic hydrogen, let's say water. Water has an acidic hydrogen. You know what is an acidic hydrogen? Hydrogen attached to highly electronegative atom. You can take any alcohol, ROH. Again, this is the acidic hydrogen. You can take an amine, RNH2. Again, this hydrogen is acidic, attached to nitrogen, which is highly electronegative. So if you, in a Grignard reagent, you put any compound with acidic hydrogen will attach instead of MgX. MgX will be replaced by acidic hydrogen. And if MgX is replaced by H, what you will get? RH. That is, you get the formation of an alkene. The MgX will be replaced by the acidic hydrogen, which can come from alcohol, which can come from amine. For example, let us take one example. Let us have, we have a compound called C2H5Br. 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 We reacted with Mg, dry ether. You know what is going to happen? The Mg is going to add up over here. So what do we get? C2H5MgBr, the Grignard reagent. Ethyl magnesium bromide, the Grignard reagent. Now in Grignard reagent, suppose you put a compound with acidic hydrogen, you put ethanol C2H5OH. This acidic hydrogen on oxygen will replace MgBr. MgBr will be replaced by this H. So what do we get is C2H6. 5, one hydrogen over here. Instead of this, you get C2H6. You get nothing but the formation of ethane. Now if you react Grignard reagent with, let's say, heavy water. You know what is heavy water? D2O, having deuterium instead of hydrogen, the heavy isotope of hydrogen. This MgX will be replaced by D. You get a deuterated product. D stands for deuterium, that is the isotope of hydrogen having mass number of 2. So if you put D2O, MgX will be replaced by D and you get a deuterated compound. You will get a deuterated compound. So moral of the story is that Rx, if you put a magnesium will add up over here. You get a Grignard reagent RMgX. We have to use a solvent dry ether. And Grignard reagent, if you react with any compound with acidic hydrogen, namely water, alcohol, RNH2. What is the acidic hydrogen? Hydrogen which can come out as H+, the one attached to highly electronegative atom, namely oxygen or nitrogen. This acidic hydrogen will replace MgX and you will get RH, which is nothing but the formation of alkane. If you put heavy water, hydrogen, instead of hydrogen we have got deuterium, it will attach over here and you get a deuterated compound. So we have done the reaction with metals and we used two metals. One was sodium, another one was nothing but the magnesium. Now let's do one conversion before we close the class. Let us try to convert benzene into deuterated benzene. Let us try to convert benzene into deuterated benzene. We have to put a benzene with it. We should have to introduce a deuterium in benzene. So what we'll do? We take benzene, we do its halogenation, ring substitution. You know, we have to use a Lewis acid, FeCl3. You will get the formation of the chlorobenzene. Once you get chlorobenzene, you add Mg. We have to put dry ether. Mg will add up over here. You will get MgCl, the Grignard reagent. Now you have to replace by deuterium. What you do? You put D2O. The whole group will be replaced by D. You will get deuterated benzene. So this is how we can convert benzene into nothing but a deuterated benzene. Let us do one more NCERT question, which is given as an index question of the NCERT. The index question of NCERT says that suppose we have to make this alkene. We have to make this alkene using the Wurtz reaction. I want to make this alkene with the Wurtz reaction, a symmetrical alkene from the Wurtz reaction. I need to find out that what should be the starting alkyl halide. What should be the starting alkyl halide? So how do I go about? Very simple. This is a symmetrical alkane. You cut it in 2 equal parts. This is how we cut it. So this is going to be your R part. This is going to be your R part. So the starting compound has to be CH3, CH3, CH3. And over here you put a halogen. Let's say Br. So if we use this particular alkyl, I've just cut it into 2 equal parts. And over here I put a halogen. Suppose instead of this, they would have given this, that you have to make this compound C4H9, C4H9. Which alkyl halide? I'll cut it like this and I will put a halogen over here. So which alkyl halide you have to subject to Wurtz reaction to make this C4H9? You can put any halogen you like. You can put Cl. Subject to Wurtz reaction, you will get this particular. Wurtz reaction is generally used to make nothing but symmetrical alkene. So in today's class, we have done 2 topics. Number 1, we have done the physical properties of haloalkanes, in which we did water solubility and boiling point. And we started with the chemical property. We were supposed to discuss 3 chemical properties: reaction in metals, dehydrohalogenation, and nucleophilic substitution reaction. Today we have discussed reaction in metals, and we took 2 metals. Number 1, it was sodium, in which we did Wurtz reaction, Fittig reaction, Wurtz Fittig reaction. And the second metal that we have discussed was nothing but magnesium. So we'll take up the next reaction in tomorrow's class. Till now, please be safe, keep on studying, take care, have a nice day. Thank you.